Hello and good morning and happy Friday, everybody. My name is Mr. G, and you're watching Mr. G's Weather Channel right here on YouTube and TikTok. So thank you for joining the channel today. And I have a weather forecast to talk about for you guys, and I hope that the weather is good where you are. I know a lot of areas we are in drought situations and we're in need of a lot of rain, especially across the Northeast and down through the mid-Atlantic states as well, through the Appalachian Mountains down to the Gulf Coast. We're seeing very dry conditions, and we're seeing very dry conditions across the center of the country as well. The central southern plains, the upper Midwest, and the northern plains, we're seeing very dry conditions, even though some areas did pick up some much needed and beneficial rainfall yesterday across Minnesota and Wisconsin. We saw showers and thunderstorms, and some of those thunderstorms became quite severe further down to the south. So from northern Oklahoma through Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa, and through parts of Illinois as well, we saw some of those severe thunderstorms blowing through last night with winds around 70 miles per hour, and they did produce some 1-inch diameter hail as well. So we saw some quarter-size hail down across parts of the central plains last night. So a little bit of a bumpy ride for some of you folks right about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock last night. So right about bedtime, we saw those severe thunderstorms moving from Kansas City to St. Louis and Chicago and the Quad Cities and Des Moines. So we did see some of those severe thunderstorms, but we saw some non-severe storms up in Wisconsin and Minnesota. So some much needed rainfall fell over parts of the central plains and the Mississippi, the mid-Mississippi and the upper Mississippi River Valley. We saw some much needed rainfall. So our city of the day is Kansas City, thinking of all of that rainfall that we saw yesterday and those severe thunderstorms down from Overland Park over to the north side of town. We saw those severe storms last night. But a beautiful sunny day today. We're looking at temperatures in the middle 50s right now, 54 degrees out there across in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. So there you go, with a beautiful day after those severe storms blew through town last night. And so there we are. I think this right here is the train station there. There's the Union Station right here in Kansas City with a beautiful historic train station right there. So that's really cool to see there. So anyway, we're going to move on with the rest of the weather forecast. Take a look at my WSV3 application, and we're going to look at the North American continent and talk about those current conditions from across the lower 48. So let's move on with the rest of the forecast, and I will see you guys in just a second. So now, as we move on with the rest of the forecast, in this segment, we're going to be taking a look at the current conditions out there across America. And what we're looking at here are the current dew points across the country. And as you can see, over the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest and the plains and the Rockies and the West, you can see very low relative humidities. And in some parts of the Rockies, you can see relative humidities as low as 18%. So very low humidities, 30% for the most part across the northern plains and into Minnesota, 33% around the dew point there around the Twin Cities area. But our warmer dew points are further to the south along the Gulf Coast. So Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, southeastern Texas, southern Texas here. We do see some of those dew points around 70 and in the upper 60s. And then a little bit further to the north, those dew points fall back to about 61, 63. And then we got some dew points here across the mid-Minnesota, like Arkansas, into Missouri, and up into like Tennessee, Kentucky. We're seeing those dew points in the mid-50s. And some areas are still seeing showers, but we're just not seeing those thunderstorms anymore. But we are still seeing a few spotty showers, and we're going to take a look at those areas with the spotty showers right now as well. But for the most part, you can see that it's pretty dry out there for most of the country, with the exception of along the immediate Gulf Coast and parts of southern Texas. And in the state of Florida, we can see those dew points over North Florida, about 63, 64, Jacksonville and Orlando, respectively. 68 down there in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. So a little bit of humidity in the air in some areas, but for the most part, along the eastern seaboard, the Great Lakes, the mid-Atlantic states, the Appalachian Mountains, the Ohio Valley, and then across the plains, the northern Rockies, the central and southern Rockies, the desert Southwest, and California, we're looking at very dry and very low relative humidities. And we do have a storm system that will begin to affect the Pacific Northwest this weekend. So we're going to take a look at that, and we're waiting for that to make an appearance. But right now, things are pretty dry out there. So let's take a look at the current temperatures across America. So look at these temperatures from north to south and east to west. So we're seeing those temperatures for the most part in the low to middle 50s there across the northeast and into the Great Lakes. We got some 40s as well over the Great Lakes. So Michigan, Minnesota, we're seeing temperatures in the mid 40s around the Twin Cities, low 40s in northern Minnesota, but we're seeing a little bit warmer further to the south. So along the Gulf Coast into Florida, 84 down there in Miami, 81 near Jacksonville, 77 down in Savannah, Georgia, 77 Tallahassee, temperatures in the low 70s along the Gulf Coast, so in Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, temperatures in the low to mid 70s, but we are seeing some temperatures in the mid 60s further to the north. So Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Kansas as well, Oklahoma, temperatures in the 50s and 60s. And when we're seeing those 50s and 60s, even as far as West Texas and New Mexico, temperatures there in the 60s and the 50s as well. Some temperatures in the mountains there in the 30s, so lots of temperatures in the low 30s over the northern plains of Montana and Wyoming, and then the mountains of Montana and Idaho, Washington, Oregon. You can see those 20s in the higher elevations there. So some very cool fall-like temperatures across much of the country, but still some summer-like warmth down along the Gulf Coast and the deep south. So let's take a look at those rain showers that are the remains of those severe thunderstorms that blew across the plains last night. So here's a look at what they're doing now. So thank you for sticking with me, everybody. But here's the leftovers from all those showers and thunderstorms right now. And they're moving across southern Illinois and near the border of Indiana. So Evansville, Indiana, we're going to see those showers moving through. But we're not seeing any thunder with those. It's just leftover rain showers from that energy that went through last night. So we're still seeing some of those scattered showers here near the Kentucky border with Illinois and the lower Mississippi, the mid-Mississippi River Valley, but we are seeing that progress to the east. Those showers there approaching Indiana and into Michigan as well. We're seeing those showers there to the north. Just a few of those showers. So now some of those showers are going to be hit and miss across the mid-Atlantic overnight if they hold together. And I have a blurry camera going on here, so a little blurry camera action, but there it goes. It just corrected itself. And I need to stand back a little bit. It was a little bit too close there. So the remnants of those showers are now going to be heading across into the Ohio Valley. And we're going to be seeing those approach the Appalachian Mountains. And we'll see if they hold together and to bring a few showers to some areas in eastern Kentucky, in West Virginia, maybe Pennsylvania, and to parts of eastern Ohio as well. So we might see a few showers in some areas. Remember, rainfall is needed, and we are in drought conditions in all of these areas. So I think everyone will appreciate a few rain showers No risk of flash flooding, no severe weather with this activity. No severe weather is in the forecast for today, tomorrow, and into the weekend. And through the weekend. So that is a spot of good news, but we could use the rainfall. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the weather across the country before we move into our national forecast. Alright, so here's that look at the national weather forecast in the country as a whole. Dry weather here along the eastern seaboard, so nice weather will continue across for New York, for Charlotte, all the way down to Jacksonville and Miami, up the coast, Charlotte, Washington, Baltimore, New York City, up to Boston. We're going to see dry conditions. Maybe Toronto, Montreal, Buffalo. You might see some showers here in your area, a few showers. So it is a game of peekaboo with rain showers across the Northeast and the New England and the Eastern Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. A few areas might pick up some brief or light rain showers, but any precipitation will be greatly appreciated, as they are running a significant deficit in the rainfall, and some areas are less than 5% of the normal rainfall that they should have up to this point in the year. And there's also a pretty big risk for fire danger. So we have critical fire weather over portions of the east, as we have a pretty persistent offshore flow. And what that does is that brings drier, cooler air out of Canada. So since it's cooler doesn't necessarily mean that there's a minimal risk of fire, because it's the winds and dryness that makes the difference, not necessarily how hot it is. Although it makes an impact, but it's not the biggest thing. So the dry weather needs to end, and that's not going to be, I don't see much relief in sight, other than those few showers that could pass through some areas through the day today. But outside of that, dry conditions will continue. So now it's time to take a look at the West Coast here. Not much happening today on the West Coast, but we are awaiting the arrival for a storm system across the Northwest that could bring some heavy rain into portions of British Columbia, as well as the Olympic Mountains, and maybe into Seattle, possibly down to Portland. Could see some showers with the storm system coming in off the coast there. So we're going to be watching for that to begin to impact those areas either later this evening or into the day tomorrow. So be prepared for that. But outside of that, most areas in the country have been exceptionally dry. But now it's time for our national weather forecast. So, okay, now let's take a look at our national outlook for the days to come. And in our first map, we're going to take a look at the Northeast. And what we're going to be seeing today across the Northeast, for the most part, along the coastal areas. So Portland, Boston, down to New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Virginia Beach, the mid-Atlantic seaboard. Your areas are going to remain pretty dry today. So it's going to stay dry and warm down across parts of Shenandoah and the Appalachian Mountains. But we will see some showers moving into parts of around Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, and maybe Lake Huron as well. So here over Canada and Michigan, down through portions of maybe Buffalo southward, Erie, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, near Pittsburgh, down across Ohio. So Cleveland, you can see some showers today. Michigan, Detroit could see some showers today. And we're going to see some showers down into portions of extreme northern Kentucky. And we're going to see those showers down through Indiana, Illinois, and down across Missouri as well. We can see those few showers. We're already seeing those showers moving across those regions right now. So a few showers, but certainly not anything to put a dent in the drought. We're looking for 1/4 of an inch in some areas at the most. So 0.25 of an inch at the most. So 1/4 of an inch or less of rainfall expected in any of these areas at any given time. And it's going to be a game of cat and mouse. here is your temperature roller coaster that we are going to be seeing over the early next week. High pressure will build in across the Great Lakes in the east. So warm heat, very warm weather, so 80s across much of the Great Lakes and the Central Plains and the Midwest as we head into Monday. So very warm weather, but we're going to see things very cool across the Northwest. So the Northern Rockies, the Pacific Northwest, down to the Central Rockies. That trough in the jet stream is going to make things very cool, and maybe some snow as well in some parts of the Rockies, snow across the Northern Rockies, maybe some snow across parts of Montana as well. So very cool, and some isolated precipitation chances as well, but very nice down here at the base of the trough with the strong westerly flow across Arizona and Southern California. So that's going to make for dry conditions, but windy conditions, but cool conditions as well. So be ready for that, and we will see warm conditions across the deep south, across the plains in Texas. Very warm, and some humidity down across the far southern parts of Texas. And along the Gulf Coast here, we're going to be seeing very dry conditions, and our hurricane repellent will continue. So those high pressure centers will continue to protect the Gulf Coast and the East Coast from any tropical influences into early next week as well. Here is your weekend outlook. A little bit of a trough in the Northeast and a trough in the Northwest. So that's going to bring rain showers to the Olympic Mountains, the mountains of western Montana, snow in higher elevations, rain in Idaho, rain in eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, rain in Seattle and Portland, some snow across the Canadian Rockies and across the coastal ranges of British Columbia down to Vancouver. Victoria could see some rain and some snow in the mountains above Vancouver. Rain and snow in the Pacific Northwest. So Seattle, Portland could see some showers. Maybe extreme northwestern California, Redwood, Crescent City. You might see some showers. Showers is possible down through Eugene and Bend, Oregon as well. So we're going to have that strong onshore flow. So that's going to make things quite windy, and we're going to see some rough seas out over the Pacific. So the fishing vessels out there could have a rough trip and a bumpy ride this weekend because of that storm system moving into the Pacific Northwest. And we're going to be seeing that storm system coming in this weekend. So a stormy Friday through Monday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, Sunday, and into Monday. There's strong onshore push here. There's that subtropical moisture. That Pacific moisture will come into British Columbia with that heavy rain. We're going to see that rain all the way down the west coast from Vancouver and British Columbia down the coast through the Puget Sound, down from Seattle to Portland, and the northwestern California could see lighter rainfall amounts, but the heaviest rainfall will be from Portland northward into British Columbia. So get ready for some wet conditions this weekend. And in the tropics, we do have the potential of seeing something tropical develop here early next week. So sometime next week, this is one of the scenarios. We do have a gyre down here that could spin up something. So a tropical system could develop down here across the southern Caribbean and near Central America, Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, the Yucatan Peninsula. Something could develop there next week. And what that could do is, depending on what's going on to the north and to the west, and this could follow the path that Nadine took and go westward into the Yucatan or Guatemala, Belize, or Honduras. And so it can follow the same track that Nadine took. That's one of the scenarios, because of high pressure to the north here. So that's going to make for a northeasterly component to the winds there, and then a northwesterly component coming around the base of that ridge of high pressure, and that could make whatever develops here go westward into the Central America. Or what we could do is have a trough here over the southeast and an easterly flow, which will make it follow much of the same path that Oscar took. And we saw Oscar come across, hit Cuba, go north of Puerto Rico and the Haiti and the Dominican, the DR, and then it went this way back out to sea. Well, it could do that, but come from this direction and go northeastward with the jet stream into the open Atlantic. That's another scenario. One other scenario often happens with late season, because we're coming into the last month. November 30th is the end of hurricane season in the Atlantic. That low pressure system that could develop here could possibly go northeasterly and more hug the eastern coastline. With high pressure, we have the Bermuda High right out here, pretty close to the U.S., and what that could do could make the system either go across Cuba, Bahamas, and maybe hug the U.S. coastline in that way. So it could be closer to the U.S. coast with that scenario. So we got different scenarios that could play out with this system here. So that'll do it for today's weather forecast. Don't forget, I'm going to go live on TikTok in a little bit here, a little bit later today. So thank you for watching, and we're going to recap what happened last night with the storms across the plains and take a look at the future and what's currently going on as well. So hopefully you can join me tonight or not tonight, but later today on TikTok. So my name is Mr. G. This is Mr. G's Weather Channel. Thank you for watching. Leave your likes, comments, subscribe on YouTube. You can follow me on TikTok, and I will see y'all in the next video sometime tomorrow. Bye-bye.